Hello, hello. I am Dana Lockhart. I am an urban fantasy author and poet, and today I will be reading a little bit of my novel, The Unlife of William Moore, as well as my new release poetry, In the Deluge. Nimble has also decided to grace us with his presence. This is Nimble. He's adorable. I'm going to go ahead and get into it. For the Unlife, I'm actually going to start on chapter 3, which I know sounds odd, but I have already done live readings of chapter 1 and chapter 2 several times. You can find those on my Facebook at Dana Lockhart 411. So I'm actually going to start on chapter 3, and if you kind of like what you're hearing, maybe start with chapter 1 and 2 on Facebook, and then come back to this later. All right, for the Unlife. For context, the Unlife of William Moore is about a really awkward vampire that makes friends with a college student. So we're just going to dive right into it. So the Unlife of William Moore. Basically, they set up a contract of the college student, Kayla Rhodes, will basically be his drink, and he will answer any questions she has. I felt my eyelids growing heavy with tiredness. I was just about to fall asleep when I heard a soft tap at my window. With a start, I sat upright. A dark form in the shape of a man waited outside my window. I saw his hand raise and jerk back and forth in a wave. Then all the fingers curled into a fist except the index finger as he pointed upward, signaling to open the window. Slipping out of bed, I unlocked the window and slid it up, latching it into place so it wouldn't accidentally fall on him as he climbed in. It was so dark, I was surprised he didn't fumble, but I suppose he could see better than I could. Good evening, William said, straightening from his crouched position on the floor. How was your week? I closed the window again because it was a bit chilly outside. Fine, I replied. And yours? He laughed quietly, seeming amused by a joke I wasn't in on. Fine. William turned toward me, and I heard the smile in his voice. You smell nice. Delicious? I asked, trying to make the word seem lighter than it was. Still, I felt a choke as it went past my throat to my mouth. I saw his head shake back and forth, but only barely. He blended in with the darkness so well he seemed to melt into it. No, he said, your shampoo. Cherry blossom? Smells very nice. Oh, I felt silly. He strode over to my desk and I took a seat in the computer chair that was pushed in under it. You have neglected your studies, he commented. We can't have that. Am I a distraction? I walked over to my lamp to turn it on and he jerked his head again to signal me to stop. Putting my hands behind my back, I said, I'll get on it tomorrow. How do you know I haven't been doing my work? He jerked his head in the direction of the textbooks on my desks, papers scattered around them. I couldn't read them in the dark, but I knew what they said. Due Monday, and the date for several days before. I crossed my arms and made a chuckling sound. Remind me to make myself less obvious. You're not obvious, William said. I just notice things. When you spend most of your life on the outside, you tend to appreciate the details. I had that feeling that he was looking through me again, into my very being. To interrupt his spiritual examination, I asked, Aren't you hungry? I was completely unprepared for his sudden laughter, so much so that it made me start. Is that what you're thinking? I thought you were acting a little nervous. I'm not going to jump you. I wanted to try and prolong it so it didn't seem like that's all I'm after. His chuckles ceased, and he breathed in deep through his nose before saying, Yes, I'm hungry. So why don't you eat, you want to ask? I'm not a mindless beast depicted in fairy tales. My hunger is no more uncontrollable than yours, Kayla. You can hold back from shoving your face in your most favorite food, right? It is uncomfortable to starve myself, though. The blood I drink goes into my veins so that I might be strong again. I do not lie when I say that you're probably stronger than I am right now. It does hurt my pride a bit to admit it, though. Even you, tired from lack of sleep. Yes, I see the darkness under your eyes, and weak from blood loss, you're stronger than a vampire. But this does not bother me. I am, by nature, quite patient. This difference in power is why I must play mind games with humans. I can render them weaker than myself with hypnosis, so I can gain their strength. Does my answer satisfy your curiosity? I wanted him to talk more. His voice felt like a lullaby that rocked me back and forth in its soft embrace. But now that I was prepared for that strange sensation, I was able to listen to what he was saying, too. I think I was starting to get the hang of ignoring his charm. I suppose. It makes sense. But what doesn't make sense is why you don't let me turn on the light when I've already seen your face. William started to frown, though I couldn't spy it with my own eyes. I could hear it in his voice. I'm not comfortable talking about that right now. Maybe we can work up to it someday. If you don't want to talk in the dark, if you want to see me, I want to have my drink first. Please? Though he said it politely, it still sent a shiver down my spine. I walked over to him and he met me halfway. His dark silhouette seemed to loom over me as he wasn't too much taller than me. He guided me back towards my bed, and I sat down as he sat next to me. His fingers were cold as they brushed back my hair from my neck. "Can we try it here now?" he whispered. I found that I could not find words, so instead I slowly nodded. I wondered if his hearing was so keen he could hear my heartbeat in double time as his lips touched my neck. I yelped softly at the sting of his teeth piercing my skin. It hurt more than it had on my wrist, though the pain soon faded. As he drank, I could imagine my strength becoming his, as he put it. I felt that strength as he took me in his arms when I became lightheaded. He stopped sooner than he did a week before, I thought, as he pulled away. He ran his tongue over the bite before I had a chance to touch the wound. I didn't have to feel it to know that it was gone. I was mildly surprised by how very little he spilled. Maybe only movie monsters or messy eaters. I hid my face in his chest as my lamp suddenly turned on. I waited for my eyes to adjust. When they did, I looked up at his face. He seemed a bit paler than I remembered, but his eyes were no less bright. "Thank you," he said, as he did last time. "I feel much better." "That's it?" I asked. A look of confusion flashed across his face. "Your health comes before mine, and you are much too tired to give me any more. Besides, it was enough." William transferred me from leaning against him to laying on the bed with all the gentleness as if I were a fragile doll. Before he had a chance to turn away and disappear, I grabbed his hand. "Billy, don't go yet." He sat back down and chortled. It sounded a little tired, too. "Billy?" Pounding a bit, I closed my eyes, feeling like at any moment I would fall asleep. "You don't like Billy?" He squeezed my hand. His hands were very warm because of me. "Billy is fine. I just haven't been called that in a while." "How long?" I asked, opening my eyes again. Maybe I could get him to talk. Billy glanced at my desk and got up, picking up my planner. "May I? I don't pay much attention to time since I don't age or change. I haven't cared about what year it is for a while now." He nodded and I nodded and he flipped through it to look at the calendar and he smiled. "I didn't realize I missed the millennium by almost a decade. Has it really been that long?" "About 75 years or so." I let that number sink in. This young man, who looked 18, was as old as my grandpa at least. Is that how long you've been a vampire? What happened? And I'm going to leave that for you to find out what happened and how William Moore turned into a vampire in Chapter 3 of The Unlife of William Moore, available on Amazon and ebook, audiobook, and you can also get signed copies from my store in paperback and hardback. And we're going to scooch right along to a little bit of poetry. This is my new release. It is available in paperback and hardback in the Deluge. The themes of the poetry collection are about water and overcoming emotional floods. And we're going to dive right into a few of them here. Let it go. Still holding on to you is like trying to caress an old flame when I know from experience playing with fire will burn. Trying to keep a hold of you is like grasping at a sheer face of a side of a mountain range. The fall is inevitable. Like sand slipping through my fingers and catching water in a sieve. Like trying to capture lightning or trying to forget breathing. Trying to cling to what remains seems better than letting go. Because if we can just move on, you and me and the memories, did it even matter at all? Against a feather. My heart is feeling heavy. For what reason today? Is it full to the brim with salt water or frozen solid into ice? Or perhaps it turned to stone. It's hard to tell sometimes. It just does this on its own. Regret. I have no regrets, and I swear this is true. Yes, there are things I wish I could undo. Some people I once knew I wish I had never met, but this alone does not become something I regret, for if I took any of it back, I'd lose far more than I'd gain. Who I have and who I am was worth all the pain. Tear stains. The only difference between tear stains and blood drops is the color of the pain. Prayer. I'm not saying I'm a believer, but this I know for sure. I've done nothing to deserve the hardships I endure, so whoever may be listening, be it God, devil, or mortal man, or forgotten eldritch horror with any sense of justice to right wrongs in the world, hear my prayer, and grant me a much-needed reprieve for many a misfortune and missed opportunity. One of these things. This is hosted by the St. Louis Writers Guild, and this won second place in the St. Louis Writers Guild Dean Wagner Poetry Contest in 2018. One of these things. Wild wind whispers in the wood. Not much more makes movement. Here and there, critters creep on pitter-pattering paws. The colorful, cool collage of leaves and lilacs leaves sweet scents in the spring. Lingering light leaks between barked branches onto moist, murky mud, reflecting on rubbish. Coca-Cola can. Write it down. Maybe I'm a writer because it's easier to say what I'm thinking when no one is watching. Maybe I write poetry because of all the years I spent in silence, because no one was listening. The fall of an empire. See if you know what I'm trying to say with this one. I promise I'm not angry. I feel more akin to Achilles when his eyes fell upon Patroclus, lying still at Hector's feet. Angels and demons. I have known angels with razor blade wings who told gilded lies, and demons who saved lives while wearing all white. Maybe it's too much to ask, and we only have one side. Unis. This one's a tribute to Unis Annus. If you know, you know. Coarse sand flows like a river along crystal clear glass, swirling and tumbling down. Each grain of sand a moment, gone in the blink of an eye, but preserved forever in stone. A lifetime, captured in a jar. We were here. We were here. We wrote our stories on paper and etched our names in granite. We painted our dreams on canvas and carved our likeness in stone. After we've long since departed, when you see what we left behind, may you feel it in what remains, for if there was ever any doubt, we were here. Being human. Maybe I'm not cut out for this human thing, this 8 to 5 daily grind, an hour drive, killing the vibe, slowly dying inside, trying to survive another day in paradise that we call life. Thoughtful. It's just 2 words, thoughtful. My mind is tumbling down the drink with far too many thoughts to think. The things that are, things that could be, and things that are imaginary. Memories from the distant past, knowing the present will not last, all the catastrophes to come and how fast it can all be undone. I'm always feeling on the brink. It makes it hard to get a wink. Perhaps I ought to see a shrink with far too many thoughts to think. And with that, I'm going to leave it. I am Dana Lockhart. You can find me at www.danalockhart.com. I'm also the president of the Hannibal Writers Guild, so if you're in the Hannibal area, come on down. www.hannibalwrites.org. And with that, I will leave you here, guys. Thank you so much for listening.